What if Issei had Meliodas' abilities? Now, in this version, we could do a few different versions. We could make him the reincarnation of Meliodas. We could make him the son of Meliodas. We could do a lot of different things. We're not going to do any of those. We're going to do something surprising. I'm going to say that, like with Escanor's abilities, whenever Meliodas had had enough, he finally just got rid of his power. He kind of just died. In that one day, his powers, right as they left his body, went into another verse, but leaving his soul, oddly enough. As this other verse, we see an opening-eyed Issei when he's just a baby, getting all of Meliodas' abilities and powers, even the strength he had. And he knew that he'd never been injured. Anything that could ever hurt him, which was rarely anything, it would usually just be stuff that was holy in nature, would always, heal really fast. Surprising everyone just a little bit, thinking, that's kind of odd. One day he was actually playing with Irina, and they saw this, and the sword, I'm going to say they were playing, and he wound up bumping into the sword. It cut his arm off. Surprising everyone, as Irina thought his arm was gone, as Black Tethers pulled it back together, saying, I'm fine, don't worry. Kind of surprising her thinking she just saw wrong and that it was just a small cut or something. They go back to playing. Until at the age of 7, she has to leave. That goes as canon. Then we have an Issei that's very different. He starts getting more of a boss type mentality, as in you mess with him, you die. Now, he does note that he has these wings that come out of his back, which they're not the same devil wings from High School DxD, but they are the ones from Seven Deadly Sins. And if you're saying Meliodas doesn't have devil wings, then explain them, because I've seen them. They exist. Now, back to what if. Issei's, fighting his way through most of the things he's dealing with. He's fighting through the equivalency of hell. Now, this would lead to something unexpected. When he was done fighting, he was kind of bored. And this was just an everyday thing. He would just straight up go in no gear, because he had boosted gear at this point already unlocked. And his hell was school, because he couldn't figure out anything. He's kind of stupid. But anyway, back to what if. Him being a little bit stupid didn't change anything, as he woke up one day with the most surprising look on his face. He woke up looking around just to see, thinking today's going to be a bad day because he has to go to school, but luckily it's a Friday, so it's going to be okay. As he would go to school, everything would go as canon. He'd still perv out, the same way. Just for an unexpected thing would happen. He would turn his head after school when he was walking down, through the bridge. That same girl asked him out, Yuma. Issei saying, sure. Couldn't tell it was a fallen angel or anything. Having all the physical capabilities of Meliodas with not much of the fighting mentality. Though he did know how to fight. Now, this would lead to an unexpected event. They go on their date, everything goes as canon, but in this version, whenever she tries to kill him, she sees that dark tether. She knows exactly what that darkness is. She calls him a devil, him saying, wait, there's other things like me? As his wings popped out saying, wait, no, those aren't devil wings. They're nothing like devil wings. Who are you? What are you? And he said, as he said something unexpected, I'm the sin of wrath, as the mark appeared on his bicep. Kind of surprising her saying, what? The sin of wrath? As he completely overwhelmed her, and every hit he threw almost tore her apart. Right when he was about to kill her, he'd get hit with the light spear in the back into his back, saying, as the darkness would kind of, heal him, saying, that all you got, turning his head, scaring Donasik, who had thrown the spear. The other two started just ambushing him with spear, and spear, thinking they finally killed him. Him who, sadly ran out of magic. Actually, I don't even think it's magic that the thing uses, so, yeah. Issei, who's basically on the ground, saying it'll take a little bit of him to heal. Them not knowing that he had 7 hearts, and with all the spears they had thrown through him, they pierced 6 of them, which would usually make him seem dead. It did. Around that seventh one got pierced by Freed shooting at him with a pistol in the back. Issei thinking, I guess I'm dead. As he laid on the ground, Reese would still appear and heal him, turning him into a devil. This is when his full power would be unleashed, which is something even Sir Zex would think, oh no, as he turned his head saying, alright, I don't know what the fuck that was, but I'm gonna go check it out. As he goes and checks saying, no one's there. Actually checking on Reese, asking if she's okay. Reese saying, yeah, why? Well, there's a power, I felt a power in your territory strong enough to even overwhelm me. Hearing this, she was like, really? Was it, Spike? Like, really, like a few minutes ago? Saying yes. That was just my newest pawn. How was he that strong? And your pawn? Well, I mean, he kinda messed with all my gear pieces, though. What? All my pawns are now, you know, they, evolved into being, you know, all the messed up kinds. With all of these, you know, mutated pawns, she starts saying, well, I'll have him in 2 days I'll have him talk to Kiba and everything like that. So, okay? Issei feeling a little bit strange, but nothing too different from his regular reality. He did something no one was expecting. He completely focused on Drake, asking what has happened, since Drake is usually out. Issei didn't have the chance to pull him out at that time, so it wasn't really a big deal. Drake saying, well, you were murdered, didn't pull me out, kind of a stupid thing. You proceeded to absolutely be turned into a... were turned into a devil by them. Hearing this actually kind of surprises Issei, saying, I'm a devil now? More or less, yes. Sorry about that, guys. Hearing this, Issei hears, well, if you're a devil now, then does that mean that you're gonna go away or something? No, I'll stay with you until you die, which means we'll probably take forever. Fair point. You already expect to live a long lifespan with the power you wielded, which allowed you to live and stop aging at some points. Though you will age slow, you will still age or die, even if it would take around 3,000 years, give or take. Just thinking that would be maybe enough, but he was actually quite off. It would take around 6,000 to kill him, at least of old age. Now, this made it where Issei would just be like, alright, going around, not really caring. And then the next day he would wake up with Reese in his bed saying, look, I'm not going to say I'm against this, because I'm not. But, and this is a key one, I need to know what's going on. Why a beautiful woman like you is in my bed, though I'm not complaining. Why you here? What you want? Is it about my strengths? Ezria said she's a devil, yada yada yada, saying they'll finish up the conversation at the end of school. Issei saying, alright, and saying she'd have someone go pick him up. Issei saying, alright, whatever. And this would be something that kind of surprises him, as he would see something no one expected. His most feared thing he'd ever seen. It was a crazy, pissed off Issei. He saw it in his eyes that he was already pissed off in the mirror, confusing him, saying, what the hell? He'd had the boosted gear out and everything, and then he said, whatever. As he was just thinking, as the boosted gear itself would say, that's your inner demon, bud. Just control it, okay? Alright, whatever. As Issei would start to walk away, you know, at the end of school, Kiba appears out of nowhere, saying, hello. Hey, I was sent to come pick you up. Issei's like, alright, whatever. He walks with Kiba all the way, you know, to the Occult Research Club. And this is when they walk in, kind of surprising everyone, as they ask Issei to pull out his balance, to, you know, use his gear. He said, oh wait, this one? Boom. Showing the boosted gear, saying, anything else y'all want to know? Do y'all want to see my holy weapon? Them saying, holy weapon? You have a holy weapon? Yeah, as he pulls it out of a black portal. He says, it's called Lost Vein. It's my sword. Well, knife, but still. Seeing this, they're like, wow, wasn't expecting to see Lost Vein anytime soon. Hearing this, he's like, what, y'all know about the sword Lost Vein? Well, it was kind of the weapon of Meliodas, one of the strongest demon kings. The only person who could put both Lucifer well, we could put all 4 of the main devil houses on their ass. Even probably put my brother on his ass, not that difficultly. Hearing this, he says, like, wow. And to think, who cares? And I'm gonna say that there is a Meliodas in this world, which did wield Lost Vein, which was actually his weapon, which was a holy sword, which was a holy dagger he took, saying, mine now. As kind of just a flex on everyone, awakening its true abilities, and having the 10 Commandments inside of it as well. As Issei said, these are the 10 Commandments. What? Yes. As he said, if I put them all in my body, I can use my full force. The 10 Commandment power is basically if you do a kind of sin around me, you'll get hit with that. Really. So, what if you just had your weapon out? It wouldn't affect anyone. If they went, but these little black circles were to appear on my skin, and I would just use the power, it would happen like that. Hearing this kind of confuses everyone. But whatever. As Issei would do something no one expected. As he also showed the dark cloak that he wore, that instead of wearing any he still wore his regular clothes, but he really just threw on that, saying, and this is my darkness. Saying it was his main ability, that he was birthed since even when he was a human he had it. Kind of surprising, Reese, knowing what it was. It was the darkness of Meliodas. Which kind of surprised her a little bit, but whatever. She just said whatever. It must have been like, you may be a descendant. No, you don't have any of his features. Yeah, whatever. As she saw the tattoo on his arm saying, Dragon Son of Wrath. Yes. Whatever. Go, here, do a whole contract and everything. Issei did the thing, saying everything goes as canon. But the fallen angel that attacks him never attack him because they're too scared of him. They're too scared that he's going to kill them. And actually, it would be kind of funny is they would literally stay away from him for, like, the whole time. Now, we have to cut around again to, whenever Issei would appear. Now, when Issei appears, this is a whole different story. He's just as nice, just a little bit perverted, but still nice. And while the power of, healing is what Issei has, she also has the same, ability as, that one girl, Elizabeth. While not having her full ability, she does have the, not the healing, actually, yeah, she has the healing ability, and the holy lights she can make appear, but that's about it. And it was Arc, which is the name of the spell. Which I think anyone can learn, but it's very difficult to use if you're a demon. It's kind of like if you're a fire mage, using ice would just be a pain in the ass. But can still be somewhat possible. As Issei would just go to, doing his thing. He would easily just rip apart the fallen angels, and they had Issei join them, and still having to revive her, though. When she's revived, she says, she starts living with Issei, that goes as canon. We're going to cut over a few days, the familiar force goes on, that doesn't change at all. Although, Issei does see something he wasn't expecting. He sees a giant red dragon. It wasn't Drake, but it was a big red dragon. It was around 20 feet. I mean, not 20 feet. Around 20 meters. Seeing this massive red dragon that was almost as big as the Dragon King, Issei said, "Hello, would you like to be my familiar?" And it turning into a human form, saying, "I won't even need my human form to kill you." Goes to actually swing at Issei, just for Issei to say, no. Smacking him, actually then slapping him in the face, sending him flying to the wall. The dragon being bloodied and beaten, saying, "I'll be your familiar," as he collapsed. And Issei saying, "Hey, Issei, could you heal him?" Sure. Issei now having her little familiar as well, they go away. Issei then stating, "Hey, so, yeah, whenever they go to the, everything goes as canon until he has to deal with Riser. With Riser, the first thing he does is say, when he first meets him, saying, 'Who's the dude who looks like a knockoff wannabe pimp?' Hearing this actually pisses everyone off. Actually pisses Riser off. Riser saying, 'I'll kill you,' Issei showing the darkness saying, 'You and what army?' As Lost Vein would come out with none of the Ten Commandments in it, saying, as it was going towards his neck, right, held up, saying, "I'll end you." Which I know Lost Vein doesn't actually have all 10 Commandments in it, but yeah, I'm gonna say they were brought with Issei for some reason, as Issei kind of has the ability to, remove them. And by remove them, I mean puts them in that, like, kind of hidden dimension. Though they do grant enough power, if activated, to rip apart anyone, and being able to take them out is quite easy. Now, this did make it where no one knew how to kind of fight him, but that wasn't really a big deal, as Issei would go around doing their training. Everything went as canon, except for the fact they weren't just training Issei, everyone was training. And Issei was more focusing on the fact Kiba could somewhat cut through his, darkness. Although, his darkness just come right back to him, but kind of surprised him a little bit. This is when he wondered and actually chopped a piece of his darkness off himself and put it in a jar, noting that it wouldn't just come to him, it was like it was its own part, and he could actually somewhat control it in there, making a ball of darkness. As he opened the jar, it didn't fly right towards him, it did what he wished, and actually went on top of Kiba. This coating Kiba in a dark kind of thing, making it kind of like the mark, which was just made a mark, the same thing that Meliodas has, which is what Issei usually has on. Whenever he goes into assault mode or berserk mode, either of those, he has enough of it to where he can make it for others. Issei saying, "Here, y'all go," and actually puts a single, curse mark on them each. Them saying, "What's this?" It said, "Check your power." Them all noting that it basically made them all so much stronger, but it was a little bit of a tacky thing to use. This is when he said, "You can move the marks anywhere on your body you wish, it's yours now," as he kind of severed his own connection to it, giving them it. Seeing this is when Akano would say, "Really? So it's my own little part of Issei?" Issei saying, "Sure, look at it however you want, I don't care." As they went to doing, they went there, did the whole fight, and this version kind of goes exactly as canon, actually. All of the way until it's just him and Kiba versus all of the other pieces. Issei on about one hand, barely even standing up, saying, "I'm done," as he collapses. Asking if this is him surrendering, him saying, "No, I'm done with dealing with you," as he powers up to his full force, even with the boosted gear out, and Lost Vein in the other hand, and he just slices her apart. She wasn't dead, but she wasn't feeling good. She'd need at least a Phenex tear to heal her. Seeing this, she completely collapses and goes to the medical station, as Issei now having to be the one against, Riser's queen and Riser himself, goes over to fight Riser, which, sadly, as much energy as Issei has put into everything today, he was exhausted. Especially since this was right before the rating game that he gave them all the demonic mark, which allowed them to somewhat recover. If something was cut off or something, they'd be able to recover, and they'd be harder to kill, but it would still not be very easy. Now, this is when Issei would basically collapse over exhaustion, just for the spirit of Meliodas to say, "You're not done yet," hitting him as his eyes would open in assault mode. Actually, not even assault mode, it was Demon King Meliodas mode, as every step he took scared everyone. Now seeing the power of the Demon Kings behind Issei, though he had no control over his body, it was all instincts he was using. It was rage. As he completely started beating the crap out of Riser, right before Riser was about to surrender, Issei fell out of his assault mode, his Demon King form, and passed out. Just letting Yubaluna hit Rias with a pointed bomb at Issei, saying, "If you don't surrender, I'll kill him." Seeing this, Rias would actually surrender, and then Issei would wake up a few days later, saying, well, not a few days, but the same time he did in canon, make the same deal with Dre to give him one of his arms, as Issei completely started to rip apart, as he would appear at the same place, start beating the crap out of people, and actually put a clean foot through the wall, cleanly piercing the door as it basically just put it perfect, as he slapped the wall and the door and just started walking with it shattered on his leg. As every step he took started to scare people. The guards tried to stop him just to get sent flying, so his ex still offers him the same deal. Issei saying all he wanted was Ria's Grimory, and actually starting to beat the living crap out of Riser at the same place. Now Riser, actually seeing that this was going to get him killed, he's still trying to fight just for Issei to drop holy water, which still burned him a little bit. Because while it was the dragon limb, he had to deal with it like on his other hand dripping just a little bit of it too. As he doused him in holy water that was transferred and hit him with a crucifix, it actually started to really burn Riser. Just for Riser to say, "I am the mighty Phenex, I will not die," as Issei throws that starts hitting him in the chest, saying, "Oh, sure about that." Every hit, and this is when the sheer lost vein was stuck in Riser's chest, saying, "What the?" As a scar appeared on Riser's, as a complete slice of Riser's lower torso to his top, all the way up to his neck, which didn't cut his neck, but luckily for him, as he noted it wasn't healing, as eventually it would almost heal, but then Riser noticed something. He had a scar, saying how could someone give him a scar? That was impossible. This is when his father would tell him about the actual original Meliodas, who gave a scar to the Phenex family, which wasn't him. It was actually Riser's grandfather who took that scar. Until his dying breath, he kind of showed it off as he survived a fight with Meliodas, but Meliodas also showed it off that, hey, you're supposed to be an immortal, and I put a scar on you, so ha. Hearing this, kind of just surprising Riser, saying, "You never told me I could be scarred?" I mean, unless it was Meliodas himself, I didn't think you could. With the boy the same power of him, and with his weapon, I guess he is. As this is when Sir Zex would see Demon King Issei, which kind of surprised him a little bit, saying it looked so much more majestic than his own look whenever he went full force. Which, honestly, true. And if he combined Balance Breaker onto it, it was just crimson armored. With golden as well. So it was kind of surprising to see, not to say the least. Now, then we've got to deal with the fight between Issei and Kokopil. He just starts ripping Kokopil limb from limb. Though Kokopil doesn't die, he is beaten within an inch of his life. And by limb from limb, I mean he's literally taking off his wings, wing after wing after wing, to where there's only a single pair left, where he's like, no more. Kokopil collapses, and the White Dragon take him out of there. That kind of goes as canon. The entire next part of it goes as canon. Then we've got the whole fight against, in Kyoto, that would go as canon. Honestly, this power won't really help him that much in day-to-day life. I mean, these are only the fights that were just either overwhelmingly easy or extremely difficult. That with this much power really wouldn't change. And then we're gonna go over to the actual, Cyber Org fight. This is where it actually starts to change. He still used Booby Lingual on Cyber Org's mom, which, honestly, kudos. Which actually worked. Having used his demon power, actually reaching in her soul and telling her to wake up, she opens her eyes, saying, I'm awake. Thank you. Issei? Is your name correct? Yes. As she starts thanking Issei with everything she has, he said, alright, I have to go now, bye. I have to go get ready for a fight. Issei then gets ready, fights. Basically, every fight goes exactly the same until Issei has to fight against, Cyborg himself. Now, in this version, the first thing Cyborg does is actually get the armor on and say, Rias, back up. Rias actually listening to this as she didn't want to get in the crosshairs of these two monsters fight. Issei going into Demon King mode and Balance Breaker, looking completely down on Riser, looking completely down to Cyborg saying, let's go. They actually clash fist to fist for about 2 minutes. After every boost, Issei starts just beating the crap out of him after about half a minute. When he was done with that, Riser was on the ground, bleeding and bloodied, while Issei stood tall. Though, not Riser, Cyborg. Cyborg stood back up, get back to the main brawl, whichever they went fist to fist to fist, just for Sour Orc to pass out mid-fight. And Issei just still standing there with only a little bit of blood dripping off his face. His nose was bleeding, his mouth was bleeding, but he wasn't dead. This being all he would need to go, do his thing. As a bloody and beaten Issei would still walk away with Rias helping him. This was all it needed for him to say, alright. And because I don't know if there's a Season 5 out yet, I know I said there was once, but that's because I was told there was and I was wrong. Issei would actually say, alright, let's go. As he would actually have kids with Rias and all that would go as canon. Would kind of go happening the same thing. They had kids, every one of them. And there was actually one thing that kind of surprised everyone, is that Issei had one of his arms missing. Though it was more that he just kept it hidden, as it was the same dragon. It was his dragon arm, the one that was a dragon. They wondered where it was, and Issei just showed that it was just covered in pitch blackness. He kind of just hides it so people don't see the dragon in it. Kind of surprising, but whatever. As Issei's son would have the same powers as him, and his child with Issei would actually have the same healing powers. While with Akane would have holy lightning and the spirit of flame, of black flames. Seeing this, even using full counter a handful of times, would actually result in a few injuries on Issei. That's all for this series, guys.